Right. Welcome to January 2020's Club Leader Development Series. My name is Katie Sweet and I'm the 4-H Extension Educator here. Thank you all for being here. Just to clarify, yes, I am in a superhero outfit. If you're following us on social media, which we're going to talk about today, you will see that we reached our enrollment goal by January 15th. We had over 1,100 people enrolled in the 4-H program. We actually had 1,300 people enrolled, which was awesome, super exciting. And so I have to wear a costume every day for one full week, including my night meetings. So this is included in that. So today's outfit was The Incredibles. And tomorrow you will have to see, follow us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter to see what I will be wearing tomorrow. But thank you again all for being here. I do have to take that off. Thank you for being here. We are going to talk tonight about social media and your club. And we do have a special guest joining us from Purdue. So we have Jenny Clark, our extension specialist. She's the 4-H marketing and communications person. She is awesome. We are very, very lucky to have her. And she is pretty much going to be doing everything tonight. No pressure, Jenny.
All right.
I'm going to, so first we're going to start off just going over why we're doing this. I'm going to have Jenny do her presentation, and then we're going to go over a couple of resources for you guys as club leaders. And then I do have some reminders at the end of the presentation, and we will have time for a Q&A session as well. So just as a reminder, this is the mission of 4-H, and it is to provide real-life educational opportunities that develop young people who will have a positive impact in their communities and the world. So we are hoping that everything we do reflects that mission, including when we talk about social media and our 4-H program. So keeping that in mind, tonight we want to focus on social media, and I thought that was important because that helps us reach new audiences. It also helps us stay connected to our 4-H families that we currently serve. And then it's where people are starting to go for information. So a lot of times people will look to social media first before they look to websites or to other places. So we want to make sure that we have great social media presence and a positive social media presence as well. And it helps us promote our 4-H program. We have lots of promotions that we do throughout our social media, and Jenny's going to talk about a couple examples that she has done or has seen in Indiana 4-H. Obviously, again, I'm wearing a superhero costume. That wouldn't have happened without our social media voting for what I was going to wear that day. So I am going to, next we are going to turn it over to Jenny. I do need, Jenny, I'm going to turn you so you can actually maybe see people too. Can you see people?
Almost. I think if you tilt me down a little bit, I'll be able to see some heads. Yeah, there we go.
All right.
All right. Hi, thanks for joining us.
We have a very complicated setup for some reason here, so I don't know. It's the sound and whatnot. So if for whatever reason you guys cannot hear Jenny, let me know and I'll turn up sound. Jenny, if you just tell me when you're ready to click through slides, we will make sure that gets taken care of too.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
Turning it over to you.
All right, we can go ahead and go to the next slide, and I'll introduce myself. My name is Jenny Clark. Like Katie said, I am the 4-H Communications and Marketing Specialist. That's a picture of me and my dog Daisy, who I'm looking at on the couch right now. I'm doing this from home, so hopefully our small town internet keeps up with us today. And then my husband Aaron, who is cooking me dinner and trying his best to distract me. So we're all here, and we're happy to be talking with you today about social media, which is just a part of my job. I sit at the state 4-H office with other individuals you might interact with. I do manage our social media accounts, which is what we're here to talk about. But I also help educators with anything marketing related that they might be doing in Hendricks County and all around the state. Including physical marketing materials that you might see passed out at open houses or at fair time. Billboards. If you've been in the Indianapolis area lately, you may have seen some 4-H related billboards that came as a result of a partnership with National 4-H Council and the Outdoor Advertising Association of America. So I get to do lots of really fun things, and I'm really glad to be here with you today. We can click to the next, Katie. So Katie asked me to come and kind of talk about general social media stuff, and why it's important and what are some tools that volunteers can use to promote your activities and clubs on social media. So I wanted to start with a graphic because people love infographics. This one's probably way too small for you to see. But if you want to check stuff like this out, commonsensemedia.org is a great source for media related information. It's all kind of family focused, talking about how kids and teens interact with media, and parents as well. So this graphic, my favorite parts of it are in the little sunshine, it says time spent with media, and that's any kind of screen or sound that someone's bringing into their life. So 9 hours and 22 minutes, the average parent is spending with media per day. And 7 hours and 43 minutes of that is on a personal screen device, like a phone. So that's a lot of time that people are spending with these devices, and we have the opportunity to interact with them. Through social media is just one of the ways, and that's kind of why it's important. Another part of this graphic that I like is in that orange box, talking about the perception of social media. We are trying to reach youth, and we want to make sure we do that in a positive way, and how parents perceive social media kind of affects that. So we have some negative perceptions where parents tend to think that social media can hurt their child's likelihood to participate in physical activity and face-to-face communication. We know that in 4-H, a lot of the programs that we offer are promoting physical activity and promoting communication skills. So I think we're well positioned to overcome those negative perceptions. And then those positive perceptions, like building relationships with kids and their friends, that's something that we can help with as well. We can move on to the next one, Katie. So this is another graphic from Common Sense Media talking about how teens interact emotionally with social media. We can see those bars going up and down about how kids are likely to feel less lonely, less depressed, less anxious, more confident, better about themselves, more popular. But we also see kind of some negative interactions there too, where some kids might feel a little bit more anxious depending on how much time they're spending on social media. And we also have that statistic at the bottom about teens think they're being manipulated. They're onto those companies who are trying to get them to spend time with their devices, and they're aware of that, and they may be backing off from that a little bit. So we want to be sensitive to that and make sure we're offering really high quality content that's giving them a chance to build those life skills that are so important to us in 4-H. We can move to the next one. So some basics I want to talk with you about when we're talking about social media are, of course, the channels that we're using. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. Haven't gotten into TikTok yet, but it is the newest one that I think I'll start getting questions about soon. Newest big one anyway. And the most important thing with however you choose to interact with social media on behalf of your club is to inform and involve your educator. And Katie did not pay me to say this. It really is true. We want to make sure that your educator knows that your club has a social media presence, and that they know who's in charge of that. The best way to do that is to follow the Hendricks County social media accounts so that the Hendricks County Extension staff has an awareness that you have a presence there, and they can kind of be your backup. If anything is confusing or goes wrong or you need any help, it's good that they just know you're out there doing your thing. We want to make sure that we be consistent with social media and make a plan. If you start a social media channel, it's a commitment to keep on posting useful information. If we have an account that kind of goes dark and stops posting because maybe someone moved away or has passed on leadership of their club, got busy with something else, whatever it might be, if that channel goes dark, it kind of looks like 4-H isn't doing anything. And we know that's not true. So we want to make sure that we give more than one person access to any social media account that you start, so that if somebody gets busy, somebody else is there to pick up the slack, and you can work together as a team, make a plan for what you're going to post and when, so that it's not all on you. And again, if anything goes sideways, then you have more than one person with access. Stuff happens all the time with people's passwords, and you just want to make sure you have a backup plan. A good way to keep good content and a variety of good content on your social media channel is to utilize those county and state and national 4-H channels. National 4-H Council does a great job kind of with very generalized content that anybody can use. It doesn't have to be, specific to your local club to be useful to your members. So you can always go out and look for what they're posting. A lot of what we post on the Indiana 4-H channels is straight from National 4-H Council, whether it's reposted or something that they provided to us. And then, of course, those local Hendricks County events, Katie and her team will be posting about those. So you can beg, borrow, and steal is not a bad thing. It provides more information to your customers. An example of that is, sorry, we'll go back one, Katie. So this graphic here is from Montgomery County 4-H. They've got a really high quality photograph, a very general message, and that's something that any of their clubs could pick up and use. A good practice is to keep your personal and 4-H accounts separate. It's tempting to say, well, I'm the leader of my club. Everybody knows to come to me. So I'm just going to start posting about 4-H stuff and people will know. But if they're just searching, Hendricks County 4-H or 4-H in my area, your name isn't likely to come up. If it has something specific about your area and 4-H in the name, it's a lot easier for people to find. So that's always a good idea. And then we'll go to the next slide to talk a little bit about why a Facebook business page is better than a Facebook group page. So an example of good posts with a Facebook business page are here from Honey Creek Township 4-H Club. On the right, we have kind of a general announcement type post that they've made. It's not from anybody in particular. It's coming straight from, this is the official news of the club. Our next meeting is at this time at this place. And they've kind of used a graphic that Facebook has built in to make it a little more visual so it catches people's eye in their feed. And what I like about this one is you can see underneath that post, they've got some interaction on it. So somebody's asking, we're bringing snacks. Do you need drinks too? Or does someone else have that? And someone's able to answer really quickly, what the right answer is. And anybody who sees that post could answer that question. If you're in a group, that's not always the case. I had an experience where someone had tagged an Indiana 4-H Facebook account in a question in a community group. Your neighborhood might have kind of a chatter page that they use to talk about things. So I saw that our account was tagged in this question and I could read the question and see it and I knew the answer right away, but I had to request to join the group and be approved by the group moderator before I could answer the question. And I could only answer it from my personal account, which I didn't love because I want it to come, straight from Indiana 4-H. No one has to know. I don't have to explain, oh, I work for them. This is why I know this. It's just straight from the Indiana 4-H account. So that's not always possible in a group. And that's why I prefer that county accounts and local club accounts choose to be a Facebook business page rather than a Facebook group. You can see on the left here that this club has shared a post by their county, which is White County 4-H. It was just a general enrollment post. You can kind of see how that shows up in that top line where it says this club shared the post, and then underneath the graphic it says who the post is from. So that's kind of how a native post and a shared post will show up on Facebook specifically. Now we can go to the next, Katie. So another example of Facebook groups versus pages. On the left here, we have an individual who posted to a group and they shared a county piece of news. So this isn't ideal to me because if I'm looking at this group, which I think was like Union Township 4-H Club, and I'm looking for what's going on, and I see, oh, Julie, okay, maybe I know her, maybe I don't. Maybe I kind of want to see what she's all about. And then I click through Julie's name because she posted some news on here. And all of a sudden, I've decided I don't like the way Julie's raising her dogs, and I don't want my kids to be a part of that 4-H club because of a choice, personal choice Julie made that I didn't really have any business knowing about. And she kind of had to share her personal life in order to share about her 4-H club. So that's made up. Julie doesn't have dogs. I did creep a little bit. It looks like she has cows and a cool looking donkey thing that has stripes on its knees. I don't know what those are called. But the point is, I shouldn't have been able to get all that information. She was just trying to tell me something about something going on in the 4-H club, and I was able to invade her privacy. Personally, I wouldn't do it. So on the right, we have a better example of a club that has a business page set up. So it's coming from the Jackson Achievers 4-H Club, and we can see that they're able to share all sorts of content, and we're not distracted by it coming from a certain person. And if somebody has a question about it, the person who posted it can still reply personally or from the group page if they want to, but it just gives you more of an option, and I think it looks a little bit more professional. We'll go to the next one. You guys hearing me okay? I can't hear anything from you guys.
Yep. We're taking it all in.
Excellent. I'm talking a lot, so thank you for sticking with me. Katie mentioned that people have a lot of questions because you guys are such responsible, wonderful 4-H volunteers. You're always asking, what am I allowed to do? I don't want to do the wrong thing. So I did a little bit of digging into the social media guidelines that Purdue has out there. Since we are, as 4-H, we are representatives of Purdue University. So we would like to know, what's okay and what's not. The guidelines are really geared more toward campus organizations and units, which means that some of the information at that shortened link I've provided is useful, and some of it you really don't need to worry about. I think the little snapshot that I've taken there under official approval was a piece I pulled out just to reiterate that you want to talk to your educator, Katie, about starting a social media account on behalf of your 4-H club. You just want her to be aware of it. She's not going to tell you no, so it doesn't need to feel like official approval, but you do want to make sure that she's aware of it. There is another line at the bottom of the page that link leads to that talks about account registration. And this was something that I kind of had to dive into and say, wait, do we need to do that? And we don't. I got in touch with Purdue Marketing and Media. Your 4-H club does not need to register your social media account with the university. You're exempt from that. So that's great news. Another little tidbit that we found was, do we need to have any special language on our account? A kind of disclaimer. And the answer is you could. This one that begins opinions expressed is one that is suggested by the university. However, the Purdue University pages don't even have it on there. So I think that's just an example of how social media changes so fast. We're always adapting, and we want it to feel conversational and still professional, and there's such a fine line that there are best practices. You're not going to get in trouble for anything that you do in the best interest of your club, as long as it's professional and true to the values of 4-H. That's the bottom line. We also, from Katie, heard that we had a lot of questions about, can we have youth post? Are we allowed to do that? Absolutely. There is no rule that says youth can't post. We definitely would encourage you to get your youth involved, delegate, take a little bit of the load off of you, and also, teach those skills about communication and let them share what they're excited to share. I will suggest a little bit of training. I know the Hamilton County Extension Office had kind of a press corps that they formed through a Spark Club, where they had youth come in and learn all about social media accounts and best practices. So presentations a lot like this one. And then the youth kind of got their press badge, and they were the ones at fair going around taking pictures, telling stories on their social media accounts. So that was a cool experience for them and a great resource for Hamilton County 4-H. If you're going to provide, a full access for youth to kind of take over a social media account. You may have seen this. I see it on Instagram with different bloggers kind of taking over, say, like a food critic type account, and they're going to go to their favorite restaurants in the city and kind of show the audience around. And that's where I would recommend some temporary access, whether it's youth or somebody else you're inviting into your account. You can change the password for a temporary amount of time or make them an administrator in your Facebook page. There's different ways to do it, but you want to make sure you have an understanding, trust, training, and temporary access if you feel that's necessary. Thanks, Katie. I'm not sure, the word privacy isn't, oh, there it is. Okay, it didn't show up as first on my screen, but I'm sure you can see it. So this is just a point about photo releases. As you know, since you're all enrolled in 4-H Online and likely have enrolled children in 4-H Online as well, there's a question, can we take your photo, basically? And the vast majority of people say yes, but you always want to check with your extension office if you're hosting a special event where you're going to have lots of 4-H members there that you aren't as familiar with, or if you're going to host a Spark Club or be a part of putting something like that on, you want to check on photo releases. And on social media, I only use first names. I know parents are really proud of their kids' achievements, and they often are super comfortable with you saying, little Jenny Clark, she did a great job. This is where she's from, and we're proud of her. But I always err on the side of caution and just do first name. And I don't tag people on social media, even if they're adults. I just let them make that decision themselves. Another point on this photo in particular, we had name tags on the kids. And since we were going to distribute this photo kind of nationally, we decided we don't even really want first names on the name tags just to protect their privacy, even though they all said, yes, take photos, that's great. We just decided to blur the name tags just to leave out any question. We can move to the next. There we go. So some more best practices for you is to choose appropriate content for different platforms. You might get the vibe that Facebook is more for parents, Instagram's more for teens, Twitter I see as business to business, and you want to choose your content accordingly. So what kind of pictures you choose, what kind of graphics you choose to use, what kind of language you're writing the captions in are all things to think about when you're choosing your different platforms and what's appropriate for that. In any of them, you want to keep it conversational and visual. So I always use a picture, and I tend to write the way I would speak to someone. That being said, we want to keep it professional still. We are representatives of the 4-H program, and we know how important that is. And an interesting little fact is that we want to keep this in mind when we're interacting with other accounts on behalf of our 4-H account. So an example of this was on Twitter. I came across an article where there's a young man who has been getting a lot of attention for being kind of a Gen Z guru. He has a lot of thoughts on, what makes Gen Z tick and how. Hey, Aaron, do you have your charger?
Yeah.
Sorry. So what makes Gen Zs tick and how to interact with them. So I thought, I'll follow that account. That's great. But he started posting some kind of vulgar language. He was liking posts that really were not in line with the values of 4-H. And I knew that people might see that I follow, as Indiana 4-H, that I follow that individual. And I don't want that. I wanted whatever I do on behalf of 4-H, I want to be representative of the values of 4-H. So my tech guy is crawling around behind me, doing a great job. So just be. This is Aaron. He's doing great. Thank you.
Hey, Aaron.
Katie says hi. Katie and Aaron grew up in 4-H together. Fun fact.
Katie stories.
We love Katie stories, I'm sure. So anyway, now I'm blushing because I'm like, keep it professional while my husband crawls around behind me. But on social media, you just want to be aware of who you're interacting with and how that represents 4-H. I have another example of a county account who the person who's managing that account really likes Purdue basketball. And I can tell they follow them on Twitter because Twitter tells me every time they interact with anybody. And I can see that they're kind of interacting with basketball accounts. I'm like, okay, it's not bad, but it's not your personal account. So just be aware of that. That being said, I definitely interact with, other youth development accounts that are doing great things, or, inspirational quote, whatever it is, as long as it's in line with the values, go for it. You also want to keep posts native to the platform, and we can go to the next slide to see what that's all about. So you can click once more, Katie. These are examples that came from Facebook and Instagram, and there's probably a share to Twitter button because these screenshots came from Twitter. So I think what happened was these folks, made a cool Instagram post. It had a picture, looks great. And they said, oh, well, I'll just do 2 birds with 1 stone. And I'm going to share this directly to Twitter with this button that exists. And it didn't work. So those sharing buttons, they don't always do what you think they're going to do. So always check to make sure your image showed up. The one on the bottom was even less descriptive. We can't even see the caption that was used. We just see a Facebook link. And I can tell you from experience, nobody clicks on those. If it's not native to the platform, I can tell that not a lot of effort went into it, and I'm probably not interested in reading about it. It's a little harsh, but it is what it is. So we'll go next. A couple other best practices for you are to keep it short, 1 or 2 sentence captions. We never want to assume knowledge, which I think we can be a little bit guilty of in 4-H because a lot of us can't remember a time before 4-H. It's always been in our life. It wasn't for me. So I'm sensitive to that. And I see, okay, somebody's talking about this as if I know what it is, and I don't. And I would appreciate a little 1-sentence explanation or a link to more information. So along those lines, we want to avoid acronyms. Not as much of a problem on club pages as it is on county pages, but we just want to make sure if we're going to say we have a YQCA training, spell it out once. Say Youth for the Quality Care of Animals once in each post so that people know what you're talking about and if it applies to them. And then when we're spelling things out, things can get a little bit long and we're trying to keep it short. Good way to keep it short is with a shortened link for more information or somebody to contact for more information. So you don't have to spell out every single thing. You can always provide a way to find more info. We'll go next. Another thing to think about is the time of day you post. You want to make sure you're posting when people are most likely to see it. So this is a screenshot from our Indiana 4-H Facebook account, and we can see it peaks at 6 p.m. it looks like. So that's when I'm going to post. And then we'll go to the next one and click twice, Katie. So it looks like 6 p.m., but that's actually the Pacific time zone. So it would be 9 p.m. So you want to make sure you're taking in all that information and getting the most impact for your effort. We'll go next. So I want to touch on Instagram a little bit. If I understand correctly, this may be where most Hendricks County clubs are looking to create an account. So I want to give a little update on Instagram. You may have heard that Instagram's no longer showing the number of likes that posts are getting, especially on business accounts. And they've publicly stated that that's to kind of take the pressure off, kind of work on that self-esteem effect that social media can have, especially on young people. And that's very admirable. I've also heard counterpoint that if an influencer can't prove their influence by number of likes they're getting, then they can't be paid for their influence. And instead of paying individuals, companies will start paying Instagram for the ads. So I don't know what the correct answer is, but the fact is we're not seeing likes anymore. So just a fun fact. Has anybody used stories before? I can't quite see your heads anymore.
We got a couple nods and
Couple
a couple
nods.
nods.
Okay, good. So you know what this is, and I want to kind of show you how they can work for a 4-H setting. So if you used them before, you know that they disappear in 24 hours. They're really useful for documenting kind of what's going on right now. In 4-H, I find them to be useful for event reminders. I've seen people use them for t-shirt orders, other kinds of announcements, and we'll go to the next slide for an example. So just a general post on Instagram before we get into stories. It's all about the photo. I loved this photo that Monroe County 4-H posted a few days ago. It was one of many photos, and I would have chosen this as the cover photo for this post for sure because it kind of draws you in. You see kids doing hands-on activities, and I'll always prefer this kind of photo over, a group shot of everybody standing still and smiling. I love those action shots paired with a really nice little caption. And they've also used some hashtags, especially on Instagram. You can follow certain hashtags. I love to do this as a business because if anybody tags hashtag Indiana 4-H, I have a special feed that I can see those posts and I can make sure to like their posts, thank them for tagging us, repost. It's where I get a lot of content and where I see kind of what people are talking about and what they want to see. And here in Monroe County 4-H, they use some that we've been using lately. So they did a great job with that. And now we can go next. Thanks, Katie. So the world's cutest picture, other than Otto. This was a 4-H alum who posted and tagged White County 4-H where she grew up and Indiana 4-H when she was doing some judging at the fair. She had her little boy in his future 4-H'er onesie. So this is an example of the what reposting looks like on Instagram as opposed to Facebook. It depends what app you're going to use, and I'm looking down because I forgot the name of mine. So the app that I use is just called Repost, and it has kind of arrows going around in a square, and you can copy the link from Instagram and move it over to this Repost app. It copies the caption and then spits it back into either your feed, which is this, the post that you see when you scroll through, or you can repost to stories that you'll see at the top of your Instagram account. So we can go to the next one. So a couple uses of Instagram stories, celebrate the great things that youth are doing. On the far left there, this was from the state fair. A young woman found her 4-H project and was so excited about the ribbon she was awarded and wanted to pose for a picture. So we got to share that success, share a wrap up of an event, kind of what's going on right now. In the middle there, that was from Leadership Summit last year. Anybody go to Leadership Summit in the last couple of years?
Actually, everyone in this room has.
Everyone in this room. Wow. Thank you so much for coming. So you may have seen parts of this presentation before if you sat with me, but hopefully it's still interesting. Another good use of Instagram stories there in the middle to wrap up an event like Leadership Summit. And then on the end, just anything that's going on, kind of a way to collect photos from your stakeholders, kind of like how we reposted in our feed. We reposted Elaine's picture of her son. This is a way to repost if you feel like this might not be a whole post that I want in my feed forever, but I want to give them, a thumbs up for the camp fun that they're having. And we had several pictures from around the state. So we can go next, Katie. So one kind of use that I touched on is reminders, Youth in Action Awards, and we linked back to the National 4-H page. So that's an example of how you can kind of play with other accounts to learn more, click through so you don't have to write out a bunch of information on yours. Can tell you about things that are coming up like National 4-H Week and the Tractor Supply promotion. That one was more of just because it was a really cute picture from Steuben County 4-H, but you could click through to their post as well and see what they're up to. So it kind of gives us traffic to other accounts when we do that. You're good, Katie. You're on it. An example of using Instagram stories to show what's going on right now was at the Indy Youth Food Challenge in October. So at the beginning of the day, picture of the chef presenting the challenge to this group of youth who were going to come together to do basically like a Chopped 4-H style competition. And then the teams got their bags of mystery ingredients, they started cooking, and we have a finished product. So it ended up being a cute little story of what we did that day, and I think showed the variety of things available in 4-H that folks might not know. Go next. A use of highlights. Has anybody seen highlights on their Instagram before?
A little bit of yes, a little bit of no.
Okay, cool. So these circles, usually it's on an account where somebody's either doing this in complement to a blog or a business where they have kind of a motivation to save information that you might want to go back to later. So the way I use this for a state account is I usually do this for like trips and events. So if somebody wants to know more about, for example, the Global Gateway experience, which if we click, we'll start to see kind of what that highlight looked like. So this is a story that I posted while we were there, and then I'm able to go back and save it to my highlights. So we got there, we saw baby goats. We can go next. We talked about how we were team building, in our groups, preparing for this night in the village, and this is what our home is going to look like in the village. We had a videographer from Purdue Agriculture with us, so they were able to tag our account and we tagged theirs. And then in the morning, we said, we made it. Now we get to cook breakfast, and then we go to their community action plans, and then we can't wait to see what they do when they get home. And then a group picture to round it all out because we got to do one of them. So that's what our highlight looked like for the Global Gateway experience. A good way for somebody who's a little bit interested to go and learn more in a really low pressure way, so then they can reach out if they're interested. And then another fun thing we can do, talking about youth posting, is a takeover. And I think Instagram stories are a really good fit for this. So we did this with a National 4-H conference in Washington, D.C. I gave temporary password to Andrew here from Warwick County. And he, basically took selfie videos for the whole time he was there at National 4-H conference. He was there as a youth leader. So he had kind of an interesting insight on not only what all of the youth participate in, but then how youth can contribute and be a part of National 4-H Conference. And I believe I saved that as a highlight that people can view later. So since we're mostly using Instagram, I also wanted to touch on Snapchat because I do get a lot of questions on what's the appropriate use of Snapchat for 4-H. I think having a Snapchat account where you're trying to create content or use it for meeting reminders for youth or do funny things, I don't see that as super useful. I get feedback from youth that Snapchat's for friends to interact with each other, and they don't really want to hear from people telling them what to do, basically. So whether that's companies having them buy something or 4-H letting them know that the meeting on Wednesday is canceled, it's just not where they're going for that information, and it can be a little irritating to them. So I want to use Snapchat in a way that's fun for them. And a way that I would suggest doing that is geofilters. So that picture on the right is a screenshot of what you see when you go to create.snapchat.com and create a geofilter. And we'll go to the next slide so I can talk about what that is. This is the example from Leadership Summit. So on the left, you have an example of a group of girls using that geofilter. So this is the clovers in the corners and the graphic on the bottom. That was something I created in advance. I set a boundary on a map for where I wanted that filter to be available. So anybody who's standing in that blue square on that map between the hours of 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. on November 16th, 2019, can access this little picture, these little graphics that then, your own face, when you take a selfie, your face is in the middle, but you have the clovers in the Leadership Summit. So you're telling everybody, hey, this is where I was. Isn't that cool? So this is a way to have kids kind of market to each other, and it's still fun for them. So we do this at big things like Roundup and 4-H Academy, but the purpose of Snapchat geofilters originally is really small scale. I mean, in the last slide, we saw somebody created one for their barbecue, and you can see, all of the 66,000 square feet or something from Leadership Summit for all day. It costs us less than $10. So this could be something fun if you're looking to add, teen club members to your club. You might, at the first meeting of the year, say, okay, we have a Snapchat geofilter. Everybody take a picture. Throughout this meeting, you're welcome to have your phones out, take pictures and videos of what's going on and send them to your friends and invite them to come. So it could be kind of a fun activity. Maybe they won't like it. If you do it, let me know. And if you're intimidated by setting it up, please reach out. You do have to have a Snapchat account to create a geofilter. And I'd be happy to set up a geofilter for you on the Indiana 4-H account. And we can figure out, how it gets paid for and what it looks like. And I can work with you on that. But if you just want to try it and you don't want to commit to setting up an account, happy to help. So we'll go to the next slide because I also want to touch on Twitter. And I don't know, I thought I had the handle on there. I'm not seeing it, but there it is. Okay, so Wayne Township 4-H is an example of a club account that does a great job with Twitter. Like I said, Twitter's mostly business to business. I use it pretty much with the content that I post on Instagram and Facebook as well, success stories, upcoming deadlines, but it's really most useful for if you've got a partnership with somebody or say you're working with a school. On the left there, Wayne Township has tagged the principal of a certain school they were working with to kind of thank them and give them a shout out for the activities they got to do in their after school program. And then on the right is an example of what a repost or a retweet in this case looks like on Twitter. You can see the tiny gray letters at the top that says they retweeted something from Indiana 4-H. So another way to use content made by others to take the pressure off of you. I haven't seen a lot of club Twitter accounts, but if it's something you're into, check out the Wayne Township 4-H page account and see somebody who's doing a really great job on the club level. And I think that's all I have for you other than my contact info, and I'm happy to take questions as well.
Question. Yes.
Hi, Jenny. This is Carla Huntsman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And I do enjoy all that you offer, all the information. I've listened to you at Summit as well, the Leadership Summit. I appreciate all the information in regards to the different genders or different generations and demographics as far as like the different social media aspects. Are you guys already dabbling some with TikTok?
I really haven't. Have you?
I've been on there. So I know that some people would say, okay, so it's just an aspect for the younger generation. Of course, we're speaking with the younger generation. So, and that's why I see between, I have Twitter people that aren't on Instagram and Instagram that aren't on Twitter and, that sort of thing. So I see the different aspects from the different social medias. That's why I was just curious because TikTok appears to be fun and entertaining and short and it just, again, it's almost, to me, it's almost like the same concept of what stories, only it's not necessarily disappearing.
Yeah, I think there's potential. The big question for me is everybody, when Snapchat got big, everybody thought, well, Snapchat's going to be where kids want us to reach out to them. And that really didn't end up being the case. I think Instagram is still a better fit for that. So I hate to, just wait and see because you want to be proactive. I think an experiment that could be fun would be like a TikTok challenge. So like submit a TikTok video about your favorite 4-H project or having something to do with 4-H, but I have trouble imagining it being super fun. You know what I mean?
That's a great idea, and I think that's how a lot of them are getting followers. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he does have an account on TikTok. I mean, he appears to rock anything. But that might be someone also to tap into to see, exactly how he's working it. But I would be interested if anything comes about to work with you or feed off information in regards to that, because I'm willing to learn more too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'll definitely, I read any articles I can find. I I don't have a personal TikTok account, but I see, you know, when people share videos on other platforms, and I'm like, okay, kind of feel like I know what it's about, but I've yet to see brands use it really effectively, more like celebrities. So I'm very interested. And if you find something cool, shoot me an email, give me a call. If you have, you know, experiment you want to try, I'd be happy to partner with you and see what we can do.
So as of right now, you were just considering on getting an Indiana 4-H TikTok account?
I would need to do some more research before I would create an account because I just don't see us creating content on that level. I could see maybe if an organization had like a youth council, so I'm thinking like FFA has state officers, they would be more likely to run a good TikTok account because you really need somebody to be doing it, you know, keeping it top of mind, and you need kind of a face to go with it. And the way that we treat 4-H is it's, you know, it's for everyone, it's volunteer run. So who's the face? You know, Katie's done a great job of, you know, making really engaging activities, you know, with her as the face of Hendricks County 4-H, but not every county has that. And is it the best fit for TikTok? I don't know. So I'm on the fence is the short answer.
Jenny, I hate to cut you off, but we do have another meeting getting going. So if we have questions, can we follow up with you as well if I have those?
Yeah, please do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jenny, for joining us. We're going to wrap up just a couple things for everyone. Here is a resource for you. This is our link to the club leader page specifically on our website. This presentation will be uploaded as well as the handouts that were here tonight. So if you joined us online or you're watching this later, they'll be on the bottom of this page as well. Some final reminders. Club financial info is due next month. You should have received it in the mail. And if you're getting an audit, you should have received that in the mail as well. Save the date. February 11th is our next Club Leader Development Series and leader training. We're going to go over the missions of 4-H and how to incorporate them in your meeting, as well as do first aid training. And we are going to our club leaders have set aside some funds. The group has set aside some funds to allow clubs to get a first aid kit if they request one. So more info will be sent out this week via email. YQCA starts next month, and then we still have a few spots open for a Teens as Teachers team. So if you're interested, or if you have youth that are in your club that you think would be awesome teen teachers, get a hold of me, let me know, and we will get them connected with the other teens who are interested. My contact information is on the screen. Give me a call, email me if you need me. And thank you all so much for joining us. Jenny, thank you so much again for taking time out of your evening to be here with us. And we will see you all next month. Bye,
Thanks
Jenny.
for having me.
I'm going to